the goal is to have like the goal is to mostly have like a board. So the design goal here with the board is that it won't allow players to make it will not allow players to make illegal moves, and it will enforce those rules, enforce turns. We've also added a clock which is configurable for multiple different game speeds, and the goal is to like be able to support two players playing chess. There are, for example, like you need to declare your own checkmate. But it does support things like resigning and drawing. But yeah, so it's not necessarily it still sort of requires two humans to be playing it. It's not necessarily like there's certain things like game ending conditions that it won't declare automatically. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's really just
So
to support.
if you were
For
to
example, like if
compare
you're
this
in checkmate, so if you're in checkmate, like it won't let you move out of checkmate, but it's up to the players to sort of declare that.
yeah, so if you were to compare what we've built to like an online like chess game, it's going to be less have less features than that. But if you compare it to a board on a table, it's obviously it has more intelligence than that. And I think
Yeah.
we're pretty happy with the playability that we reached. Like in terms of moves, and like during the game, what happens, the functionality is pretty clean. And there's a handful of features that we implemented that other simple chess programs like this don't. And so we'll show those off, like I said.
Awesome.
Um, so yeah, so we've set it up. We've have a pretty pared down Python GUI just to work as like a serial text feed back and forth. We figured we should keep the Python side of things as simple as possible because it's like a bit of a slippery slope. If we add complexity to the Python, we might as well program the game in Python, right?
It's
So
very tempting. Yeah.
yeah,
I get
so
that.
we decided to just keep it. Everything is just commands over strings. Um, and so you put in your move. The format, it's similar but not identical to the format that's kind of universally accepted, called algebraic notation. In typical algebraic notation, you kind of have to backtrack to figure out where the piece started because you only tell it where it ends. What we have
Yeah.
here is you give both the beginning square and the ending square, which
is it's still an acceptable form. It's just usually like when you see notation, they'll shorten it to make it simpler.
yeah.
Okay.
Usually you only have to do that to clarify if two pieces that are the same can get to the same square, but we just have it so you do that every time. So yeah,
For example, if I go, so this is just like moving the pawn from e2 to e4, and you see that it added 5 seconds and started counting down because now it's black's turn. The 5 seconds is because they got a 5-second increment per turn, which is 10 minutes plus 5 seconds, like a fairly standard game, time control. So now, black's clock is counting down. So we can have, black respond 75. So now say if I'm moving this pawn, and I'm not putting anything in front of e2, e4, because in chess notation, usually pawns don't get any letter or anything. So just to show off some like the illegal move detection, like one thing could be I can try to move from e4 to e5, right? So it's an invalid move. It's going to tell us that because it's blocked. Pawns, as you guys probably know, they capture diagonally. But so if I try to do, that being said, if I try to do e4 to say to d5, it's not going to allow that because there's nothing to capture there. So yeah. That being said, if I do play d2 to d4, and then I try to capture it, I will be able to do that. So that would be e5 to d4.
Wow.
So maybe this is actually a good position to show off en passant. So en passant is one of the more I would say obscure rules in chess. So when they in chess, when they decided that pawns should be able to move 2 squares in the first turn, which is actually not always a rule, the issue that created was, say, if I move this pawn, I'm not sure if you guys can see my cursor, but if this pawn on C2 down here, if I move it 2 spaces, then in theory, you're able to move pawns past other pawns, which is something that is not possible when they can only move one square, right? Which is like important for endgame considerations. So what happens is that on the first turn, if I push this pawn 2 squares here, if there's a pawn that it's moving sort of next to, on the first opportunity, only on the first opportunity, it's allowed to capture diagonally as if it had only moved 1 square. So if I'll play c2 to c4, then I will be able to play d4 to c3 and capture like that.
And that's kind of the single most nuanced thing in chess. Like most chess events, like most moves you can make, you don't need to think about the order of moves coming before it, right? Like most times you can just look at the board and see what's any possibilities if you don't know the rest of the game. But en passant's one such move, castling's another such move. We'll probably castle.
Yeah, those are the only two things that really rely on like a game state versus a position.
Fascinating. I had never heard of that rule. That's really interesting.
Yeah, so we're pretty proud to have implemented that, because that's, like I said, a lot of simpler chess games that, you know, hobbyists might code, because it's a bit more tricky to set up the conditions for it. We'll just overlook that or keep it out. So we're pretty proud to have implemented that.
All right. So it's white's.
Do you want to show off a check? Do you want to put someone in check?
Yeah, I can do that.
Maybe you,
I'm thinking
do queen d7 or something, just to get him in.
Yeah, good idea. Good idea. So now I'll specify Q for queen, right? Q d1 to d7. So now the king's in check. So let's say I try to push this pawn. It's not going to be a legal move because the king is in check, right? So that would be what about c3 to c2. It's not going to invalid move. You're in check.
Wow, my gosh, you must be keeping track of so much state.
Well, in this case, actually, the way we're doing checking is if you move, we check after, like basically we try to allow you to move. And if the result of your move means that the king is in check, then that move is illegal. And that helps for a bunch of things because if you're in check, and that actually sort of covers a lot of different ways to move illegally, because if you're in check, right, you have to move out of check. But also in chess, you can't move the king into check.
Right.
And also if you have a piece that's called what's known as a pin piece, where you have, say, a bishop is sort of attacking your king, but it's blocked by, say, a knight, you can't move the knight because that would result in your king being in check. So by doing that, we can check all sorts of different ways that you could potentially move illegally, while still moving the pieces at least legally. So now the king would have to capture, say, king from e8 to d7. Yeah. Should we try to castle?
Yeah, sure.
So
we need to get a couple pieces.
We could also show a promotion here too.
Yeah.
Move the bishop from where is it on? It's on
F1.
Move it to like b5. Okay. Now I'm just gonna push the pawn, and then eventually I'll promote.
You're in check again, actually, so it won't let you. You have to do like
d6. I noticed that. All right. So king from d7 to maybe just e7.
Yeah, that works.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, now we'll just move the knight from g1 to f3. We can push that pawn now, c3 to c2. And so now we should be able to castle. We use the notation for castling. So this is for kingside castle. This would be queenside castle, which we could try that. It won't let us do that. But we can't castle here because you can't castle queenside because there's pieces in the way. But you could castle like. I sent an empty string. Oh, God damn it.
That's okay. It causes a reset.
Yeah.
I'll show off castling quickly though.
Okay. That's wow, really cool.
One, F3, knight B8 to C6, bishop from F1 to C4, bishop from F8 to C5, and then you castle like that.
So yeah,
and there
the
yes,
now switch. If you guys are interested, this is the Italian opening, the Italian game.
Yeah.
Wow.
Doesn't really matter, but
That's really cool.
We should try to get some sort of promotion.
Yeah.
Just to show that feature off. Maybe I'll just
Yeah.
like push pawns and allow the white pawn to get to the end.
Yeah.
So
Just let him capture up.
D5. DX.
So we have it when you'll see when Brennan promotes, but promotion. So this is, I guess, a feature we've left out that you'd be able to do in an over the board game, but it's kind of a non-issue. Normally when you promote, you can choose to select what piece the pawn becomes. So a promotion, when the pawn reaches the 8th rank, you can swap it out now for another piece, kind of like in checkers when you king the checkers. But 9 times out of 10, probably more than that, probably like 98 times out of 100, someone's gonna promote their pawn to a queen. There are a couple positional cases where you might prefer a knight, because knights have sort of the most unique set of moves. So rarely you might want to promote to a knight, but we have it auto promote to a queen just because adding a whole piece selection interface for like these very, very uncommon scenarios seemed unnecessary. And if you go to
there's two things to show off. Wait, if just interrupt. So see how black, like it looks like they can castle on the king side?
Yeah.
So they actually can't, and the reason is because they would be castling into check, and you actually can't castle if there's an enemy piece attacking either of the two squares between the king and the rook. So if I try to castle, which I just did, it says invalid move because that white bishop there is attacking the square where the king would end up.
Wow.
Yeah. So let me just make like a filler move and then we'll show the promotion. I'll just go like h7 to h6. And then, so if I capture either, actually I can just push it, the pawn from b7 to b8. And now it's a queen.
And now it's promoted.
Yeah. And we could probably show off a pin pretty quickly too. If you push like black's queen, then the knight will be pinned.
The bishop. Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah. So yeah, this is what we were explaining earlier, where you can't, if the knight and the queen for black weren't between, or now just the knight, the pawn we just promoted to a queen, if that knight weren't there, she would be checking the king.
Minor correction, Elliot. It's a bishop.
Oh, that's a bishop. Sorry, my mistake. Okay. Yeah. Regardless, if it weren't there, it would the king would be in check. So if black tries to move this bishop out of the way, it'll be illegal because that would move yourself into check, which is also disallowed.
If I try to move it, I can't move it.
Yeah. Wow, it's very complete.
We should show them the time control stuff.
Yeah, that's okay. Quickly. You want to just reset the game. Yeah.
So you can reset.
And we should have someone win just to show resign.
Oh, we should show that. Yeah. So if I want to play, and notice that the time doesn't start ticking when you reset. You have to wait for it first. So if I want to play, what do you have? We have blitz, bullet, and class. So we have bullet. Bullet is like the fastest, which is like a 1 minute. So if I set it to bullet, and then as soon as I start playing, it will update.
And so bullet's 1 minute. So we have options for bullet, which is 1 minute, blitz, which is 5 minutes, rapid, which is the default, which is 10 minutes, and classical, which is 30 minutes. And these are kind of standard accepted.
You could also change the increment directly. So like if you want the increment to be like 5 seconds, 1 second, you could do that as well. So I would say like ink, I'll do like ink 9, say. And then so that would be counting down.
And you get 9 seconds per turn.
Wow.
Yeah, so we have 4. We support like the 4 main. Like usually you have bullet, blitz, rapid, and classical. The 4 like different time controls. And we have like default. So we just have like sort of default amounts for those. But it is extensible to have really whatever time you want.
And each piece image a bitmap?
Yeah. Oh, we should talk about that. You want to talk about that, Elliot?
Yeah. Do we have what we did on MATLAB pulled up, or could you pull it up? Yeah. So we found a Creative Commons like pretty small sprite set of chess pieces. Obviously those downloaded from the internet were like PNGs, so we saved them as bitmaps, and then we used MATLAB to essentially just help convert those into arrays that we could read off, and just we
Okay.
made a header file with all the
Yeah,
pieces.
I'm not sure where the MATLAB.
Okay,
That-
well,
Was that
maybe at least
MATLAB
open
on
the,
here?
open the header file if you want.
Oh yeah, I'll open the header file. That's good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Where is that? It's in.
And so then we just essentially just stored our sprite table,
up here. Yeah.
and
So it's
then
showing.
used some of the TFT printing functions to print from these arrays.
Really cool.
Oh, I should show off resigning. So it's Black's turn. Say resign. You have white wins. Then just show off the.
Yeah.
And black ones. Wow, that's amazing.
And yeah, and we have draw as well. If you want to.
Yeah, why not? Can you? I forget if it lets us draw before the game starts, but I feel like it's kind of.
Yeah.
That's just
Wow.
I think that's all we have to show, right? Those features.
Yeah, that's I think just about everything on the board that we can show.
That's
do you have any
extremely
questions right now?
impressive. It's extremely impressive. That's so much logic.
So much logic, and you clearly have the knowledge to make this right, which is fun to watch.
Yeah.
Thank you.